Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another book club review episode. I am one of your hosts, Uncle AK, and with me, I got my good peoples in on the Zoom call, lit ladies, of course. Um, Little intro, Mane, how you doing? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I'm here besides the cold and the snow.
Yeah, man, it look like that snow is killing you over there.
Oh my goodness. I hope this is the last one for the season.
Just little snow like this. But anyways, Ashaya,
That's what it is.
T, how you doing?
Good. No snow over here, so hallelujah.
Lucky you guys in the Wild Wild West. Um,
Yeah, when we'll be suffering with heat, you people will not help. So
I take that heat over that cold anytime. But that's a topic of conversation for another day. Barbara, how do you do?
What's up? Happy Friday. Well, Happy New Year to the book club fam because this is technically the first recording. So Happy New Year to everyone. I'm wonderful.
Happy New Year to you too. Thank you for the reminder. We have
That's
gone
what
so
I was
far
going
in
to say. Only you can
February.
remember that.
You know, we've been so far to
I was
January.
like,
That
New
was
Year?
New Year.
It's still January. Let's dwell in the newness of the year.
Yes,
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah. For sure, for sure. It's a great year. You know what I mean? 24. But yeah, anyways, man. Nelly, welcome. First episode. Oh well, first and a half episode.
Listen,
First
thank
and-
you.
How are you doing? Welcome to the platform.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you.
So listen, if you've not subscribed, hit that subscribe button at the bottom here for monthly notifications on our book club or any other stock episodes. And follow us also here again, subscribe to our streaming platforms at SITM podcast, uniform like that. And there's a collab with Online Central Podcast as well. Today the book we are talking about is Behold the Dreamers. And I would let Nelly do us the honors.
Well, welcome to our book club podcast. Today we're delving into Behold the Dreamers by Imbolo Mbue. This compelling novel explores the immigrant experience through the story of a Cameroonian family living in New York during the 2008 financial crisis. It's a tale of aspiration, perseverance, and the clash of dreams against the harsh realities of American life. As we unravel the complexities of the Jonga family's journey, we'll discuss themes of class, race, and the pursuit of the American dream. This poignant story promises to spark thoughtful discussion and reflection on the immigrant experience in contemporary America. Let's start the conversation. So, how did Behold the Dreamers resonate with your experiences or views on the American dream?
it almost seemed like an exaggeration of an immigrant struggle, but I promise you it is not. I could find my story some similarities with what the Jonga family went through. And it was, to me, I think it was consoling to an extent to think that, somebody else had a struggle story, even if it was fictional. But I think that it stems from reality, right? Because I don't think her fiction could have, conjured up such vivid imagination. So it was consoling to know that, some people do share my struggle.
For me, I think it helped me be more grateful of my story. Because there were moments where I'll put the book down. Because I listened to the audio back in, I think, 2016. And then reading the actual book, some parts of it were like, oh yeah, I remember this part. And some parts were like, wait, what? Is this how it happened? So there were times where I would put the book down and say, you know what? I may have struggled, or the whole journey to this point may have been a struggle, but phew, not this bad. Like there were moments where my heart was really, really racing. I was like, wait, why am I acting like this is the first time I'm reading it? But yeah, it helped me appreciate or look at my journey differently.
The book, when I read the book, because I just did the audio, I actually have not had an opportunity to read the actual book yet, which I will. I think every immigrant, it doesn't matter where you're from, Africa, Asia, wherever you are, you resonate on the story somehow. There's a part of it, either from Nanny and Jende, or the whole immigration struggle with the lawyers, and then finally accept there's something about the story that resonated. And particularly the whole immigration thing, it kind of hit home for me because I could understand and relate to that pain. Like I'm like, there are moments that I've been there, sure. Yeah, I say it's fictional, but it hits home a little bit, maybe too close, especially at the end, but it does.
Yeah, I think that for me, the story itself, I could see so many people that I know, family and friends, who have experienced little bits of this story up until the point of what's their son's name, up until the point of that little boy. Just about everyone that I know who's an immigrant has experienced a little piece of it. So it's definitely relatable to our views as immigrant of the American dream.
Yeah, and then I echo that, especially like going to school. I mean, all of us, we go to college here, and there are international students. Even you come and you go through the like asylum process and everything. Some people's journeys are easier than others, and then also finding out others that come through the Mexican route, they gotta take this plane here, catch this boat there, walk through the jungle here. It's crazy, right? Just to be able to hear these different stories and then hear this one too as well. And it's I don't know, it's comforting, it's saddening. There's so many mixed emotions. As you read the book, it's like a roller coaster of different emotions. But at the end of the day, each and every one of us has our own definition of what the American dream is. So it's nice to have heard what somebody else's is too. But let's dive into the characters. Let's name some of the characters in the book T. Since you have been starting, I beg. Just one of us have been listing some of them.
I think the main characters were the Jonga family, made of the dad, Jende, the wife, Neni. They got a son, Leomi, and then later a daughter, Timba, was what she was named. Then you have the Clarks, the Edwards family. It's Clark, his wife, Cindy, their two sons, Vince and Mighty. Then you have Abubakar, the lawyer for the Jongas family. Then you have Jende's cousin, Winston, who was there, and that's pretty much who the main characters are.
So within those main characters, to each and every one of us, which character did you find most relatable to, and why?
I think Jende, that when he went for his job interview, not knowing how to act or how to respond or what to do or what not to do, and being scared to offend that character was relatable to me with regards to my first job in the US. I think I did retail. I did not get to do like home health aid, and part of that was because I don't like dogs, I don't like pets. So the idea of going into people's house and potentially running into their pet and all of that was like a no-no for me of doing home health. So I got into retail, but the whole interview process, I remember being so sweaty that I was like, okay, I'm so scared, I'm so sweaty now, I'm worried about being so sweaty. And yeah, there was a whole lot of nerves in the beginning, my first few jobs, but over time, I have learned the skills and gotten comfortable with doing interviews. So yeah, Jende is in that aspect. That's how I find Jende relatable.
Mane kind of touched a little bit on Jende, especially with the first job interview. I think we all coming here as immigrants, we've had that experience somehow. I know I sure did. But there was that part, and then there's this part, I think it was towards the end, which we're going to deep dive into, the little part where he got fired from his job by Mr. Clark because he did what he was supposed to. It was something that happened. It actually happened to me, especially when I was going to my first residency. And I remember, I was like, it took me that particular part, it literally just, it took me right there because I went through different emotions to the point. I'm like, when you said you can, and then they called it, before we got started, there was a whole conversation where the wife and Winston was having about them not trusting people, the Caucasian trust when it comes to your job because they'll turn against you. And that whole, I just went through that whole process when I was reading to that. But his character, I think, in how he talks to his boss and how respectful he is, and he afraid to ask questions or not to step on any toes. I think that's something that is relatable to us as immigrants in general. And then Nenny's character, especially when she was working in the Hamptons with the Clarks, and when I don't remember the other mate's name, when there was an issue and her fear to not speak up if something was wrong, or her fear to
the wine.
Yes.
I think Anna was the maid. Anna.
Yes, Anna. So that little part, I was like, I can totally see myself doing that. Like they would tell me to go to something, and I'll go and start, and instead of me say what I was supposed to say, I'll start rambling and say something convincing, and then come back and say, yeah, no, not doing it. That's not doing it. So
yeah, that little piece about when Nenny and Anna, or when Anna was actually telling Nenny what to do, in regards to telling on Cindy, I felt I've seen that so many times where you're at work and there's a situation and your coworker who's Caucasian is telling you about, oh, how this is wrong. Oh, you should do something about it. You should tell the boss or something like that. And you're faced with that decision, like, how about you tell? Because when I was listening to the book, I was like, why didn't Anna go tell herself?
Exactly.
So I felt like I've been in that space so many times. But another character that I did find myself relating to was Leomi, the son, coming or migrating to America at such a young age and not having any idea of the pressures or the decisions that their parents or his parents were having to make to give him this, dream life. So I saw myself in him a little bit, having to grow up, in this country. So.
See, I feel like Jende is very popular tonight, but I'm sorry, I'll still pick him. I would say that I related to him in his entire story, right? Having to want to, that fear of, oh my God, how long would I keep making a living, right? Having that pressure of taking care of family, having to make tough decisions, and it's not even about you. To his immigration case with the lawyer and the judge, and having to make tough calls and having to do damn near anything just to put food on his table. I don't think I've related to a fictional character as much as I did with Jende. Um, it it was like looking at yourself, somewhat like having an out of body experience with Jende. So I could understand. Maybe that's what made me understand a lot of the decisions he made. But Jende stood out to me.
I would say his wife. What's her name?
Nenny.
Nenny, there you go. Sorry, Nenny. Yeah, his wife. Jende for one, yes, but I also like to, point out his wife too. Shout out to her for, I don't want to use the word, but I guess I'll use the word, the patriarchal things that she had to go through. One thing is not being able to voice her opinion, regardless of whether it was right or wrong, and he could actually stand and even try to think about it first, before saying, oh, nah, this is what we're going to do. Or even letting her at least have, her shine too at some point in time, even though he brought her here, and everything, the over excessive, it's like, I own you type of behavior, that was a little bit wild for me, because in my mind, I'm like, damn, if somebody did that to you, how you gonna feel? What if she brought you here and she told you what to do? Wouldn't you still sit on her head and say, oh, I'm the man, blah, blah, all this stuff? And then on top of that too, letting pride, make you leave a place that, you could have humbled yourself to still find a way to stay, but go back to where, you've been dreading. I mean, that's nuts to me. So shout out to, Nenny. But I don't know. I can't believe I said that. But anyways, let's move on.
Actually, I wanted to piggyback a little bit on that. Okay, so Nani's character, right, with the marriage, I think a marriage to Jende, what it is I just one thing I enjoyed about the book is that's actually how marriages are in Cameroon, in Africa in general. So it was like a good representation because very true, women are not allowed to, but that is how marriage is defined in Cameroon. Your husband says yes, you say yes. Your husband says jump, you jump. Your husband says sit, you sit. And they depicted it. Even a lot of the times you hear when they talk about marriages or when we in the African community, right, the conversation is that, oh, the women come here and they change, or they adapt the American culture, which there are parts of the book that Nelly was terrified about it, especially with the conversation where they talk about going, there was a whole part about them going to the bar, to the club. She couldn't understand that the whole rationale because it was different from back home. So I like that the author somehow preserved that is how when there's a married couple in Cameroon, that's just a day to day. It's you obey your husband and whatever they make decisions for you, I just have to accept it. Because and Nenny she didn't change Nenny to fit the American standard of things per se, as we Africans would call it, although I don't think that was a nice way. But she left it, she maintained that to preserve that culture, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So I thought that was something pretty cool.
Mhm. So with that said, then I mean, you just brought us into our next segue, which was, what insights did we gain, about Cameroonian culture and the immigrant experience in the United States through this book?
The whole puff puff part has been like, oh my god. With this weather, I was just like puff puff pop and some beans will make sense right now.
I know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's actually one of the few parts I remember from listening to the audio back in 2016. It was just heartwarming that what's his name, Mighty?
Yes.
I'm so excited about Puff Puff. I was like, wow, okay, yeah. I don't know if that relates to culture, but that part was good to read it. It was like close my eyes and I can picture myself somewhere back in Cameroon having a good roadside Puff Puff movie.
I was like, I don't want to say it was like there are a couple of things that gave us insight. It's not a Cameroonian culture per se, but it's just African in general. One, you having to work and send money back home to take care of your parents, them constantly reaching out to you for money, you being worried, like, or in the US, we're taking care of a family here, but one of Jende's biggest worries was that he constantly had to send money back home, not just for his family, but for his wife's family, just so he could take care of. So it showed, I think, the audience like a difference between being an American and being an immigrant. We have different sets of worries compared to them. Besides the immigration part of it, because to live in a foreign land, to live in America or anything outside of Europe, papers is your key. You have to have papers to survive anyway. And so besides that part, it's just the different worries that we have to deal with. We have our home base here, but also have to take care of things back home. So that was something that it's not Cameroonian per se, but I think it's just something all Africans or immigrants have to like deal with.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
To me, I'll go back before they came to the US, right? Where Jende impregnated Neni and Neni's father threw him in jail. Well, that is the lifestyle back home in Cameroon, right? It's not like here, oh, I'm 18, I can do what I want. Well, you can't. You really cannot. And it's as easy as I know somebody and I want them in jail. It's as easy as that, and you're in jail. And they can throw away that key and nobody would look for you. And so it was interesting to bring back that, I don't want to say memory, but like a trauma. That's traumatic, right? But to see that was brought out, it was interesting. Because sometimes you tell people and they're like, oh no, call the cops. Well, I don't know what cops you're about to call, but
for some reason I thought that it was just made up, I thought it was a made up asylum story, but I was like, wait, this sounds real. Yeah.
You want to hear people asylum stories here, everybody. The way you laugh, joking that story like that.
Oh my
Yo,
God.
see, I'm glad you brought back home. But am I the only one that enjoyed the story when Nenny was telling? I don't know if it was Mighty, the story about when her father was rich, and then I like how they describe the customs that they take bribes, but they really don't say they take bribes. I like
Yeah.
that part because that's just typical African culture. But the part about them getting the TV and all the kids will come. Yes, it was just nostalgia. Like they'll come and gather and watch, and then when they see our TV, what was that color? That little line that will pop up on the
Oh,
TV.
the line, the yellow line with
The yellow
the
light,
green line.
yes,
This.
yes, I enjoy that. I did the cartoons, and then when they're watching like, yes, I'm excited. When they're watching they're watching like a TV, and then
And then the kissing part comes up. You
they
gotta
get the
turn your
WhatsApp.
head.
You gotta take your hands off, cover your eyes. I'm like, that is so back home, and it's
Yeah.
such a massive difference than in America or the Western culture because you just said like, kids watch it. Cameroon, are you mad? In fact, if you even mention that you know something like that, yo, it took my mom whooped me. I got whooped because they were kissing and I watched. My mother said, "Baba, open your eye. You know, open your eye."
Yeah, bro.
They could have sent you to a seminary school. I mean, sorry, Lady
Mhm.
of Lords.
You know, I was whooped. But anyway, I like that.
There was that one part in the book where, I mean, it's as simple as, for the Clarks, they sit on a dining table to eat. But when the kids went over to, the Jongas family, they told them, hey man, you could grab your food and you could sit anywhere. What I mean, me, I've always been that person that I still dislike dining tables. Dining tables is to set up food. You go and grab your food from there, and then you gotta find your own space. Because some people chew crazy, some people like hitting the plate. I'm speaking of me though. But anyways, and I don't like people, disturbing me. So I just like to go and sit in my own corner and do as I please with the food. So yeah, that one really, that stood out to me a little bit.
I even like the whole idea of them all eating together and the fact that they were having this little boy come over to visit them. And Nani went all out with, creating a spread. It was very nostalgic, or it's very typical of our culture, where everything seems like a celebration. If you were going over to I don't know, if you're going to go hang out with your American friend or something, I highly doubt that it's a spread that you're going to walk into.
You'll be
So
lucky
I
to
think
get crackers.
you'll be getting some snacks. So I think that was very typical of Cameroonian culture.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Nelly, just along those lines, like, right? Were there any like moral or ethical, dilemmas in the book that particularly intrigued or challenged you?
Yeah, definitely. When Nani walked in on Cindy and met her, half dead, um, and she had to decide if to call for help, if to call 911, or if to just leave like she never saw it. Because if she walked away like she never saw it and Cindy did in fact die, she would have been stuck with the ethical dilemma of, oh, I could have done something about it. At the same time, if she reported it, she could risk losing her job. So I think that was a very that was a tough moment for her in deciding what to do. And then calling her friend, I forget what her name was, and the friend was like, just walk away, or just walk away. It was very typical of African nature of, oh, just mind your business and keep on moving, versus the American culture of, oh, we have to do something about it. We have to do something. Yeah. So yeah, I think that would have been probably the only ethical thing that I saw there. Yeah.
Funny.
Man, me was sorry. I just jumped in because he
Go
was
ahead. No,
going.
go ahead. Go
Sorry,
ahead.
man.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Jump in. Don't
It
worry. Mine will
was
come after you. Go
it
ahead.
was when Nenny stormed into the Edwards' house with that picture to
Yeah.
blackmail Cindy. Listen,
Yep.
I have never supported something wrong as much as I did that. I was like, you go, girl, get your coins. Get your coins. And when she flipped out the photo she had of Cindy and said she was going to blackmail her, I was proud of that woman. I was so proud of her. Like, girl, you learned, and I can result because I worked somewhere where it was so backstabbing that I was keeping evidence right on my phone and stuff because they'll come and say, "Oh, this was wrong." Okay, here's a photo. It wasn't me or it's somebody else, and so I could relate to that, and I was so proud that she got 10 grand out of that, and she
That's not
was
enough.
it was not enough, but maybe in 2008
8.
10,
Yeah.
10 grand that
Wow.
was a lot of stacks, you
Yeah.
know. And I was so proud of her, and she was so proud of herself. That to me, I mean, it's like, well, blackmail kind of is wrong, but like, I mean, you sometimes you got to do what you got to do, especially after they did her and her family dirty. So I mean, she got her lick back.
Oh, I was just gonna piggyback off of what Nelly was talking about. It. I mean, I would not. My initial thought was, well, like, you never saw it because somebody else would eventually find out if she died. You know, maybe her son or somebody else. But it turned out not to be. Or it turned out that she didn't die. So, but yeah, my first thought was just walk away like you never saw it because it's not like nowadays where people have cameras in their houses like everywhere. So I was assuming that back then there was no evidence of you if you didn't touch her, your fingerprints are not on her. So besides you being in the house around the time from when she quote unquote died, I didn't see how she'll be tied to the incident because in the event that the cover involved, her papers were on the line. So that was my thinking. Just walked away like I never saw her.
Yeah, no, I think, oh, okay, okay, I'm sorry if I just cut in, but if she had walked away, I'd have had a problem because I was just like, even when she called her husband or tell her not to do anything, I had a problem with it. I was like, so you guys are just gonna leave that woman there? Like, she's not gonna do anything. But
I
I could
mean, she got her book.
understand, yeah, I could understand where that's just me personally. I guess that's
Yeah.
just my person. I would not walk away. Like, I cannot because I'll sleep and have nightmares that in that particular scenario. So I'm glad she did what she did. That the author just said that she actually did help, and the woman did need her help, and it turned out good at that point in time. But I think the part that I resonated so much to it was that blackmail. It felt so satisfying. Like it felt so good when she did it. I was like, yeah, right. But at the back of my head, I was like, oh, I mean, that if we're doing the Cameroonian culture per se, we will not blackmail somebody now. That's just something we do. It's like,
Yes, we do. I don't know what Cameroon you're from. Hell yeah, we
that,
do.
see, let me put it in my head. But see, we don't do that kind of thing. It's like you talk, understand, but you don't come. I was like, she had vibe, and I gave her respect. But my American side was like, you know what, you gotta do what you gotta do. I gave her much respect for that because she went against her husband, and she saw that her husband was struggling, and she did the best that she could to survive her family. So I don't blame her. It's just how she went about it. I was just like I have small pride in that. You made me proud as an African.
Mm-hmm.
Because Africans will tell you to walk away, don't do anything. So I had a little pride there.
Speaking of walking away, Therese, I'd like for you to take this. Talk about speak a little bit about the lawyer. How did you feel about the lawyer in this book?
First of all, if I can find him, I will knock him upside the head because I feel like he misled Jende. I don't think he provided adequate counsel for him. I think he took light of the situation, right? And sometimes you get a lawyer or someone to defend you in a case, and they don't really know how the shoe fits. They don't really know where it hurts the most, and so he did the bare minimum. I think. I don't think he fought hard enough for Jende. When Jende decided that he was going to do a voluntary exit, I was like, this man didn't even fight for him. You know what I mean? The lawyer just let him decide and walk away. So I just felt like he maybe he was competent, but I just think with Jende's case, he dropped the ball on that one. I think he did.
I think he was competent, Mama. It's not a competent. It's Abubakar is a definition of an African. We win it. Oh, it's not that bad. It's the same. I did Mr. XYZ's case. It worked. And so just apply. When I tell you he's an epitome of how an African man, let me say man. Okay, I'm not taking a Japa African man, so please, let nobody miscall me. But an African,
Okay,
that
sure.
they take things lightly. Like he played. He was lazy. He annoyed me the entire time. I thought at one point they said he did not have he was not even a lawyer, right? Did I read that wrong?
No, he had left the law firm that he was working for.
So the man to me, he is the reason that this guy got deported, or his immigration thing fell to the cracks, because I think he was lazy. He didn't know what he was supposed to do. He does whatever. Why? You know what? We'll just play with the system. We'll find loopholes in the system, and then we'll figure out. Don't worry about it. Let's not stress. He was, in fact, he demonstrated the character that a lot of Africans do, and it pisses me off, especially when you come to a different country. You think what we do back home, you're gonna apply here, it's gonna work. Things just don't work like that. And so he annoyed me. Because
I think he did that because Jende wasn't really paying him that much. I think
true.
so.
We know
he
people.
he just did whatever. And
there are people
money.
right now. The thing is that that particular Abubakar's case, like the lawyer, in reality, if you want to extrapolate what happened, in reality, we have a lot of Africans, Cameroonians, who have met people like that, and it has derailed that cases in real life. That's why I think that's well, because I know people who are Abubakar, and that have messed up people's lives here, and they drag the immigration thing case. I'm like, yeah, Abubakar, the author describes a typical Cameroonian, like, to the T.
I mean, to piggyback on that, I don't necessarily know if that's a Cameroonian or an African thing. I think I feel like in Abubakar's case, he was just doing it like he was doing a favor to Winston and then making money on the side. I think that he left it to the hands of immigration. I think that he felt like at the end of the day, there's not really much that I can do. It's up to immigration, starting with the reason why he chose to do his asylum based on it wasn't a strong asylum case.
Yeah, that story. That's what
you don't need to be a lawyer to know that if you were the US immigration system, you're not going to give someone asylum because her dad is going to threaten to lock me up because I impregnated her and the child died, but then somehow we still have a child together. It just did not make sense. One, it wasn't a strong enough case. I feel like he could have done more research. He could have gone the extra mile. If he has the experience that he claimed that he had, he could have come up with a better story for Jende. So I really think that he was just doing it to just get paid some extra cash, which was kind of sad. But yeah, unfortunately, that's the case with a lot of us who come here and we want to go to professionals that we know or someone we know knows them. A lot of people who want to take a referral only from someone that they know, X, Y, and Z went to this lawyer, so they must be good, and that's who I'm going to go with. When really, the person is just incompetent. Yeah.
Nope.
Add to that, from my experience with lawyers, I've mostly been Black, African American and African, is that the amount of effort they put in your case depends on how much they can get out of it. So this has been my assessment based on the experiences I had. Because I had a lawyer who told me that, you won't make money from this case. I'm like, I'm not really coming to you because I want to make money out of this case. I'm just trying to prevent other people from going through this experience. And I said, well, you can just write to the board of blah, 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 and you can make a difference that way. I'm like, I think that it would be more impactful if he comes from a lawyer. And I was like, nah. I was like, okay, he won't take the case. So as he said no, somebody else called me. And this other person figured out they could make X, Y, Z from the case. So this same lawyer had a different case. I was like, okay, can you do this? He was dragging. I found somebody else to take the case. So yeah, I feel like from my experience, I'm not speaking about every lawyer. It's almost like if they just want to make money as a drive-by, they're like, okay, I'll take your case. But if they have if it looks like they'll make a fortune for me, it's kind of how much they would make out of it. You can tell from how much effort they put in the case. Because a lawyer will text me every day, call me every day. This is the status. This is the progress. But this other case, it was just dragging. Then when I found somebody else, it was like, oh, you didn't respond back. And I'm like, psh, I found somebody else. But yeah, I mean, it's sad that, some people's lives kind of revolve around money, but it's what it is.
There was that part in the book where he had called Winston to ask Winston what should he do, right? Being that the lawyer is not up to par with, the case and things like that. And Winston said, well, at this point in time, since they had, been with this lawyer this far, they should, see that through. And I think then he mentioned something as, you already started with this river, so why not just see through the end too, right? Um, being that, he to him, he had like this sense of, oh, okay, I've made my decision and this is that. I was in my mind, I was like, why can't you just make a decision and say, you know what, this is not going as planned and actually switch lawyers? Or why can't you just ask your boss? You know what I mean? Because they say closed mouths don't get fed. So why didn't he just ask his boss? I don't know. Like, was there any part in the book? Well, to me, like that's something that, as I was reading the book, I keep asking myself, like, yo, why wouldn't this guy just ask his boss? With all this oomph in him, and you can't just ask your boss, like, yo, have you experienced anything with immigration and things like that? What stood out to you guys the most in this book?
I think just to piggyback off of what you said, there was this saying that whatever you know is better than the angel you don't know. So sometimes we tend to stick to what familiar or what we think we know, rather than having to go meet somebody that we don't know. Then you're trying to know them, and they're probably charging more. Then the person you know is acting like, oh, I'm giving you this price because I know you. So it could have been something like that. Like just sticking with Boubacar because Winston knows him and he's quote unquote the devil I know, as opposed to asking Mr. Clark, the white, it's different for me, it's different in status and all of that. So yeah.
Boubacar is not from Cameroon.
No, it's Nigerian, right?
Yeah. Okay.
But at least he was African, I said. So somehow they could relate.
They could, and they said for what Abubakar was saying was that he has helped a couple of people and they've gotten the papers. So I think he did have some credit. Give it to him. It's just the way he went about it. But okay, so to answer your question, right, about why he did not just go to his boss. Remember, I think his work permit was getting when he got hired. They never really do a full background check to see if he had a legit work permit or not. So there was that fear that he had that was engraved in him that if this man discovers that he doesn't have legit work papers, he's going to lose his job. Yes, did he have an amazing relationship with the family? He did. But that in my head, I was like, I can understand why he didn't ask him because that was in the back of his mind already. Like he had that. He's like, I don't want to lose his job because it's all I have to sustain my family. Secondly, he's a man. He's a typical African man to the core. There was no way in hell he was going to sit and say, listen, this is what's going on. He had his pride. I had thought about this thing. I said, he's not just going to bring his immigration issues and tell this man, what if he had a paranoia? Remember when Denis went and told the preacher, the pastor about the issues, how he freaked out? I'm trying to take that part and put it that it was unlikely that he would have had that conversation with Mr. Clark. Because Mr. Clark did ask him, like, why didn't you just tell me? Why didn't you just come to me and say, hey, XYZ? And him, the Jende himself, could not answer. So he had his reasons that they were actually valid. Like, he had a legit fear, which you cannot trust people, especially with immigration. Immigration is, honestly, is a very sensitive topic, especially since he's filing for asylum. He was creating a story that did not exist. He has an American dream. He's trying to stay here in the US. And so he was worried that if they find out about his immigration side, he was going to lose his job. And he was also convinced that the government was listening to his conversation. So it was very, very unlikely that he was going to have that conversation with his boss. So I think maybe that's why he just didn't ask for help or think outside counsel, outside, I think, Winston, Denis, and the lawyer. is stuck within his friends or group that he could trust. So I'm
Mhm.
assuming that's why he never just reached out.
Damn. Seems as though you have something with, African men mentality. But since you have mentioned it a second time, let me ask you this.
Oh my God.
Let me ask you this. Please make me a correlation between all the men right in the book. What are 3 similarities with all these men in the book?
The African
We,
men or just
the African men or just
No, all the men. Yeah, well, yeah, the
All of
African
the
men.
men.
Yeah, the African
Something
men.
just come to mind, but let me shut up.
no. Go ahead. Please take the
I
pressure off
think
me.
not taking I don't want to say others, but not taking
counsel.
from women.
Mhm.
Or not even listening. I mean that's what popped in my mind.
Yeah,
That's
it's
one.
not.
Nelly, feel free to join in. Therese, feel free to join in.
I'll
Let's talk
say
about
their sense of wanting to take care of their family. In spite of everything and all their differences, they had that in common, right? They wanted to
The way
take
they went
care.
about it.
Yes, they would and did what they could to take care of their families. So that I'll applaud them for that.
Which I think we should talk more about though, because I had a how can I say, Mr. Clark. Yeah, let me shut up.
Oh, go ahead. Come on, bring it up. Bring it up. Go.
No,
I
bring it
mean,
up.
we're here.
I mean,
I like where it's going because
I applaud his way of, I don't know, sacrificing his family to take care of his family, but the way that he was going about it did not. I mean, it didn't make sense to me, but somehow I understood that to give them the life that he was giving them and the life that they had gone accustomed to required him sacrificing being away from them. Because
Mhm.
something has to give. If you want to spend time with your family, then work is going to have to, I don't want to say suffer, but you're going to have to cut time on work. But then there's this mentality of men attaching their worth to how much they make or how much they can provide for their family. So I don't know. It's like you do this, you lose this. You do this, you lose this. And I was just like, I mean, there's a happy medium. I just don't know that he wanted to get to the happy medium,
see,
trying to stay
man,
political.
with Clark, right? Clark's happy medium. Yes, he did. He had his stronghold of take care of his family. He wanted his family to have the private planes and everything else, but you could clearly tell the man was stressed out until he had to go find a prostitute to release his stress.
I mean, he
So he
couldn't even
sacrificed.
stress with his wife.
He just I'm saying he that part is that I think that part of it was the one I could not understand. Like I do like yes, I agree. He gave us a lot to make sure his family was good, but it's just how much he had to sacrifice for it, and he realized that at the end, like how much he had to offer up just to make sure his family was all together, and he lost it, and he lost the relationship with his son. So, but I actually want us to talk about it because this particular part, it was not just Mr. Clark with all the men. It's just how much Jende, like if we started before he even got the job with Mr. Clark, he had like 3 jobs or so. He cleaned, he cooked, he did everything just to make sure his family was taken care of. Though how much work African parents had to go just to make sure that Leomi had the best life that they could. That was something that I think touched my heart and I resonated a lot with. How much parents sacrifice to make sure that kids are okay. I don't know if it's just the men or the men and the women. It's just the parents in general in the book. It was something that they had in common. The lengths they would go to make sure that their family was good. Even the Clarks, like Cindy and Mr. Clark, they had that understanding. Yes, Cindy understood. I think she understood her role as what she had to do to support her husband. Her husband did the work and she made sure she was very heavy. She even mentioned it to, and when she was having a conversation, when the person found her that she had OD, the conversation that she had with Lenny there, where she came from, I'm going to digress. The woman had a lot of issues, but where she came from and her family right now, and her biggest goal was that she wanted them to be together. I think she was looking for love that she never had growing up in her family, and she never got it. She felt like they kept abandoning her. And so she did everything she could to make sure that worked. And then if we go to the Jendes, Nenny worked a couple of jobs. I think was it Nenny or Jende that had said that she was going to work 5 or 6 jobs if she could to make sure Leomi had live the American dream that they had. So that was something that they both had in common. I think all of them. It's just how much devoted they were to each of their families in the best way, in their own ways.
The woman did not know what type of job this guy had before she got married to this guy.
Ooh.
I don't know. In the beginning, it did not. Well, I can't speak for her but the fact, in fact, not so much for me, right? It's not so much the demanding nature of the job. It's how he decided to relieve his stress.
Was she doing it?
Political way, huh?
Was she doing it though?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Was she doing it? Right? Like, was she doing
what
it?
did they say anywhere in the book that he tried and it did not work?
Mm-hmm. Well, I like I like to use my, my 2 cents and my judgments. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who will easily run to medication and alcohol, you know what I mean? That's proof to me that, well, that's a little bit of proof to me that this guy probably tried and it was not working and he had to go someplace else. But that's besides the point.
Wow.
It's a coping mechanism.
That's besides the point. I feel as though if you're gonna stay home and I gotta work, and you enjoy this luxury lifestyle, there's just certain things that you two gonna have to find a way to not stress about, but keep trying to make sure that they implement it. For example, family gatherings. Yes, the time might not be now, but it doesn't stop you to keep trying again. Next year, try again. You know what I'm saying? We might try again next year and something might happen. But to say that, to stop this thing I'm doing, that would give us this luxury lifestyle that you enjoy too. Like, come on, man. You know your role, play your role same way as I know more and I'm playing it. If today I wake up and I cannot provide, it'll be a different issue. The depression that you fall into will be the one that, not even alcohol or whatever can bring you back. But that's just one of my 2 cents to that.
If she had chosen to cope differently, would Mr. Clark have been okay with it? Hypothetically.
Mane, you keep saying cope, but the issue she was coping with had nothing to do with Clark.
No, right. Yes, that's what else. Nothing.
She was coping with something, and yes, with her own childhood traumas. And I think that because of that, she mentally checked out of her family and her marriage. Yes, she was home, but she was checked all the way out. Even when they went to the Hamptons, she had no cognizance of who comes and when they leave. Like, she was checked out. So I guess because of that, I can say it's safe to say that, well, Clark knew that she was fighting her own battles and he just didn't want to go and have to start something. And so he just went where he would just get what he wants and come back home.
But didn't she check out because he was always canceling meetings? And
that was part of it, but she was already in her drugs and alcohol. That him canceling and not coming it kind of just added on top of that.
Made it worse.
It kind of just triggered her even more. Like, okay, I've dealt with all this. The one person that I want to be with still isn't choosing me. But I feel
did he even know about her doing drugs and alcohol?
No,
we
didn't
know. And we also don't know how much she knew about her childhood trauma and how she was dealing with that. We don't know. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The only time, because the only conversation that ever came up was when she was talking to Lenny, how she's a child of rape and how her mother, she didn't really get love from her mom, favored her youngest, and she struggled. And even when Anna, the housekeeper, was saying when the mother came over, how they used to fight, but when the sister came, you can tell the differences. So she was struggling with a lot of issues. And I kind of mentioned it earlier that her family, the Clarks and the kids, was where she was looking for her love. She lacked the love and she wanted it. The attention, but her husband, he gave it to her. So
didn't she have a conversation with Clark before she had that conversation with Nenny until Mr. Clark walked out of the kitchen and left her?
No, so there was the
That
first
was
conversation
about
we ever had.
Vince. That was
It was
about
Vince.
Vince
Vince
moving to
canceled
India.
vacation. No, that was
And
even before Vince
she
moved
did
to.
mention, huh?
I said before even Vince moved to India, she had been having there was a okay before the India part. Vince canceled an internship that she was supposed to do, and before Vince was supposed to go on vacation or somewhere with them, and Vince canceled it. So it's like there were like
And
a
she
couple of.
blamed him. She
She
blamed
blames
Mr. Clark
she blames Mr.
for
Clark
never
for it.
being
So
right.
that was her whole thing. She said, "You're never home. You leave the family to me to support. Like I'm trying to get you to like your son, and he needs you." And I think he said it was her job to do whatever. She said that's so it's like different arguments. It's just powder if you read it through. Like it was just like an add up of things that got to that point.
I mean, the boys need their father, so I still stand at the point that he could have been more available, not even to the wife, but at least to Vince. Not that it could have stopped him from going to India, but there's this part where I think Jende, he was going to some appointment that got canceled, and they ended up at some park, and he told Jende to come meet him, and they were watching the whole sunset. It turns out that Vince loved to watch the sunset. And Jende just figured out that Mr. Clark and his son, Vince, they have a lot in common. But both of them will not know that because they don't get to spend time with each other. So I get that maybe the wife was checked out, but as a son, you need your dad. So if he did not even have like son hangouts, dad and son hangouts, which Cindy had with Mighty.
There's something in the book, right, that I think Mr. Clark had mentioned. He did say there was a reason. He said he wanted a life where his family would not have to look for anything. He wanted the life that he wanted. He was aware of it, and he did say in the book that he wanted to give them everything that they wanted, and for him to get to that point, I think in his head, I'm just assuming, in the writer's head, was that the wife understood her role. Like I was not going to be around. You have to handle all of this. So it's kind of like if you really like, you feel like if he was brushing things off. Like if they come to tell him about beans, he's just like, you handle it. He's a guy. You're supposed to. A man. He said it especially when he said he was going to find himself. He said his goal was a man is supposed to have a job that is supposed to sustain his family. There's this thing that they say, is that men are responsible or women are accountable? You're responsible. Yes, you're responsible for your family. Mr. Clark in this book, he depicted that you are supposed to have a job that's going to give you money to support your family. You cannot tell me that you want to get around the world to do whatever you want to do. How's that going to help you? That's why he was hard on the son, which is what Cindy was saying. That because he wants, which is also something that Vince did mention, that he feels like his dad wants him to go to law school because he wants to create this life for him that he doesn't want. Which I think we're going to get back to it. I wanted to talk about that. But his family, his dad was creating this whole, has set this whole path for him, but they never really asked him what he wanted, and that's not something that he wants. And he had a problem with that. And Mr. Clark, coming from, he came from a different generation than Vince. He did not understand that. He's like, this makes no sense to me. Like, I've laid the carpet out for you. Like, I don't throw away red carpet, walk on top with you, I'm going to the other side. Like, help me understand. But at the end, he did understand his son, and he said he was proud of him for the decisions he made, that he was bold, because he, Mr. Clark, would have never gotten to that point.
One thing that like kind of pissed me off as I listened to this was Jende actually, he could piece, the relationship between father and son, but chooses to be quiet because of whatever beliefs that he has. And I was like, yo, you are pissed. Why not just say, you know what I mean? Just say it. You never know what might happen. He might probably use that, for something better, or the kid too might probably use that for something better. But regardless, coming from where I come from, listening to a kid like that, I'm like, I need to take a hammer and hit your head, so you could realize what blessings that you have. Because you're talking about going to India, you go see things that you yourself, you'll be like, yo, I'm really blessed. I'm privileged, so why want to go that extent? But then some people got to learn the hard way, I guess. There's nothing wrong. But again, coming from where I come from, I don't see again a reason why a father cannot work as hard to provide for their kid. At some point in time, emotions will come in the way, but the kids who, growing up to can also understand that, this lifestyle that, I'm living, like, it takes sacrifice. Because if I look in the next block, it might be darker than where I'm at. Do you want to be there? Do you want to understand the sacrifices that it took, from not being there to being in this position that you are? Yeah, I understand, emotional this, emotional that. But still, like, if food is not on the table, if you don't have these fancy ass things, it's gonna be, oh, my dad never worked to do this. But now that it's provided, it's another problem. I mean, at the end of the day, people have different problems in this life. You know what I'm saying? All I'm saying is, if I was in that position, then I mean, still, I want to do what I want to do, but there ain't no way I'm about to fuck up my bag. You know what I mean? Some things I'll be like, yes, yes, sir, yes, dad. You know, just because I want my monthly allowances to keep coming as is, I don't want a penny to drop off of it. So I don't know what they're talking about. For me, it's yes, dad. Please, I beg. When I come back again next week, sure. Add another week. What's my problem there? Hey, some people like emotions past money. Some people like money past emotions. You pick your own, you know. That's how I see it.
So, okay, I have a question for you or for the
True.
group, right? Just with Beans, I think the entire Beans relationship with his parents and how he went about the decisions that he made for him rejecting his internship to waking up and moving to a whole country. As Africans, number one, we would have had that opportunity to do that to our parents. And do you guys think it was his privilege talking, or he was just a young man trying to find his way out in this world?
It was definitely his privilege.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agree.
It was his privilege for sure.
I mean, I
Why
feel
do
like
we think it's his
also,
privilege?
I
Thank
feel
you.
like
Let's ask you.
Enough to even have something to
What a
walk away
luxury.
from.
yeah, he had a choice, yeah,
He
but
had a choice to walk away from something. Like, if you come from nothing, you don't have a choice. There's nothing that you're trying to rebel against or walk away from. If anything else, you're trying to walk towards a dream for yourself, right? But he had that luxury to be able to make that kind of choice, which, you know, it's of no fault to him, but it's just where he was born at. So he was able to do that because of that. So, and I think it was also like an act of rebellion against his dad, why he did all that, but still, it's because of the lifestyle that his dad was able to provide that he could even be able to rebel.
Yeah. And just to add on to what you're saying, I think that as parents, our ultimate goal is for our kids to have a great life, right? I think that Mr. Edwards had gone to great lengths to provide that for his children. For Vince to be able to choose to walk away from all the privileges, that his dad's hard work had afforded him. I don't think that his dad had seen it going that way, because if he had gone the other route and done all the things his dad said, done the internship, gotten the right job, and he ended up in a profession where he didn't like it, he would have just repeated the same cycle of his dad. If he didn't like what he was doing, he was working long hours, he would have ended up with a family, married to someone that he's spending so much time away. The cycle would have just repeated itself. But what his dad did was provide him with the opportunity to go explore and find himself and find what he truly is passionate about in life. And I think that that was a stark comparison between African parenting and American parenting, because our parents, they have this in their mind of what the best life for us looks like. So then we're raised and we go to school doing what they said we should do. Some of us end up in careers that we don't really love. It's not a good fit. Some of us end up in careers that we're forced to love, because our parents made all these sacrifices. Now, what happens is when your true self starts rebelling against what you were forced to love, it's a recipe for disaster. For you, the person that you choose to marry, your children, it's like a horrible cycle that just repeats itself. So I think that his privilege and the luxury that he was born into, allowed him to make that choice. And it's an understated freedom that children are born into in this country.
Yeah.
So I'm happy for him that he was able to take advantage of that. But I don't really think that it was rebellion. I definitely think that it was a privilege. Yeah.
The funny thing about it is that, sorry, Nell, I just have an example. In high school, right? When I got into law to do something else, my mother went and removed me because the thing that she told me to go and register for, I did not. I think biology, chemistry, philosophy, and something else. When I told her that she wanted this account, she went and removed me, withdrew me from the school, took the money, assessed me, and to do the economics that she sent me to do. I just have to mention
And sometimes privilege doesn't always have to be a bad thing, right? It's an asset. And the one thing I would wish for myself is to give my kids that privilege, like Nelly said, to be able to explore. Only privilege can give you that.
Mm-hmm.
It's only privilege. And so it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It's only a bad thing if you abuse it, right? Or if you don't optimize its benefits. But I think ultimately as a parent, that's where you want to get to. That place where your kids are privileged enough to have more than one option. Some of us didn't. My only option was go to school and get this degree.
That's it.
You didn't have room to think about passion. Passion key you there. Like, like passion was not an option. Nobody cares what you like.
Right.
No.
You are going to school so that you can earn a living. But I feel like, if we had a little more money, I would have a little more wiggle room to go and make mistakes and come back. But I didn't have none of that, so I think ultimately that's a goal for a parent.
I don't know why I just
First of all, we come from a place where lawyer, doctor, engineer are a prominent
Pharmacy.
things in society.
accounting.
Yeah, that one too. For something in finance, those are the top things in society. Anything outside of that, you're considered
It's
disgrace
nothing.
or it just don't exist. You know what I mean? It don't make sense. Why would they not put you through the system where they know that at least you have a chance of surviving, right? But we also have a society where the old do not want to retire. So how would the young get these jobs that they're forcing us to go do? They're forcing us to do things that the old don't want to retire from. I feel as though with such privilege, man, like if most of us have such privilege, we'll do great things with it. Me, I've never mind, doing something that somebody else wanted me to do in terms of career, because at the end of the day, that's not something that one thing does not bound. That's not all I got to do in life. If I go get that degree, it's not stopping me from go getting another one. Or it's not stopping from using that degree and actually working in what I want to do, right? Sometimes it's you do something just because you want to silence this person and keep it moving. But in the back of your mind, you already know what you really want to do. I just don't understand why, most of this, excuse my friends, just rich fucks always got to just fuck up shit for other people who don't really get it and they sit there just looking like, damn, like I just want to reach and strangle this person because they don't know the blessings that they got. Because it don't make sense. Like, how you got everything? They've already paved the way for you, and you say no, you want to quit and go to India. To go India, what? What are you going to look for? Okay, say you want to go for third-term holiday, no problem. But you say you want to quit everything and go? Hey, my friend, please. I wish, right? Parents could say, okay, you know what?
Not that time holiday.
I'm just saying.
He went all the way back to Cameroon with
Yeah.
that time holiday.
Because that's the only time you could leave to actually go to, holidays and then come back and resume your school or whatever it is that you were doing. So I don't know. I don't understand. It's beyond me. Maybe I'll never understand such privilege, but one day I just want to, if somebody can throw me into, one of these rich people's shoes, just to understand that kind of mindset, because I don't get it. But anyways,
Am I the only one that, like, I think now just based on the discussions, right, I can get it that it was all privilege, but I kind of wish I had a little bit of Vincent's courage that he, to me, when I read the book, right, when we go into the book, I thought he was like, you know what, he was courageous enough to tell his parents that, no, I don't want to do that. This is what I'm going to do, and he stuck with it. Like, really? He has bile because the rest of what I did not. Let's say I took a back way. I sabotaged a couple of things that they wanted me to do. That's how I did not end up in the career that they were pushing me to do, because I sabotaged the interview. But anyway, that's a different story. Let's forget. I was proud of him. I had like a little pride. I'm like, this is something as, I guess, Africans or immigrants, we don't have the privilege to do. You cannot. As T said rightly, it's your only goal is you go to school, get that degree, and get that stable job. What else are you thinking about? But I was a little bit like, I was envy of him. I'm like, this boy is living life. That he really woke up and in his young age, he said he wanted to do this and he went and did that. But that's cool. I forgive him that. That's cool. Because even at this my age, I'm dragging my younger sister to start telling me that you are doing which degree. I'm looking at you like sideways because of the culture that has been ingrained in me. Like just how it is. You're
Kind of confused for a
supposed to.
sec, right? Hold on. Is it this same thing that was, this same attitude from your parents to you, was that the same from your parents to your brother, or is it just a woman thing?
What attitude?
In a sense of, oh, you must do this career and not that one, or you must, because where I was sitting, I cannot see how my parents could have forced me to do what I didn't want to do. You know what I mean? I just don't see how. Like, if it's not in me to do it, first of all, like, so for you guys, like, I don't know, Mane, T, Therese, Nelly, were you guys forced to
Are
sit
you a
there
firstborn?
when sitting, or did you have choices?
Are you a firstborn?
I'm not the firstborn, not the first boy, but I'm not the firstborn.
You're not the firstborn.
No, I'm not the firstborn, no.
Okay, that eliminates like 90% of
I
the
mean, I'm
pressure
a
to do what they
firstborn,
tell
but
you.
I went against all the rules. That's why I can somehow relate to Vince. Now I didn't have his privilege, but I knew early on that I did not want to spend years studying something that I didn't like, and knowing that I would have to work this job for I don't know however long before thinking about going back to school and getting more school loans to do what I wanted and what I liked. I mean, it wasn't easy, Everybody wanted pharmacy or doctor. I hate medicine. I hate hospitals. I hate the sight of a needle. Anything medical related, I hated it.
So wait, let me get this straight. You were not paying for the tuition. You were taking loans, but they were telling
No,
you what to do.
they offered to pay if I did pharmacy or medicine.
Uh-huh.
And I said, I mean, I could spend the what, 4, 5, 6 years because I come out school loan free and be miserable. So I think that I made the option to do what I currently do because I had the opportunity to take out school loans.
Mhm.
Now,
Okay.
if I did not have it and the only option was for them, maybe I would have ended up doing pharmacy or medicine. Maybe that was a privilege that I had, to take out school loans. But now looking back, I could still have gotten the degree. Because I knew that I understood that they wanted me to have a successful life financially because our parents tend to want us to attain a level they didn't get to attain. So they can sit among their friends and say, oh, my daughter is this, so I got that part. So my goal was to attain a higher degree, just not what they wanted. But because they did not understand what occupational therapy was, I knew that it would give me financial freedom. I wasn't even thinking of school loan at that point. But when it got to a point where I figured out this is what I wanted to do, I mean, like I said, it was me against the world. But today, people are like, oh, you're happy. And I love it. I can go to sleep, go to work, feel like I'm pulling my hair out, come back, go to sleep, wake up, and go back. But I do recall when I was in pre-pharmacy, I would dread chemistry, physics, maths. I would whine every day and say, oh, I'm doing this because people said I should do it. But when I switched my major, it wasn't any easier. But because I loved it, I looked forward to the challenge, I looked forward to the stress. So I can kind of relate to Vince in the aspect of you get to live. Okay, you are the person that you will spend the rest of your life with, right? You can figure out other ways to make your parents proud. Like I said, they wanted a higher degree. I'm not giving them a higher degree. It's just not in the field that they wanted. But yeah, it would require some level of being able to afford the other choice, which for me was to be able to take school loans. Now, someone else may not have that. So they would have to go ahead with whatever whoever is paying for it is asking for. But with the new Gen Z, oof, it's interesting because now there is this whole school of, oh, you don't have to go to school to make money.
Not in my house. Well, true.
Yeah, because I feel
But
like at the
you
very
still
basic,
gonna get that education though.
yeah, at the very basic, I feel like everybody should get at least a college degree, and then from there you decide if you want to do a higher degree or because everybody now wants to be an influencer or get into business and think that social media is making it look easy. But Gen Z, oof, I have some cousins who are Gen Z, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Yeah, some choices come with it, and if you don't have it,
That's my father's rule. Is he doesn't care, boy, man, you're all required to have a degree. It's his rule. It's unwritten. It's just we don't argue about it. You don't conversate. Once you get a degree, you can go and do whatever you want to do. It's like it's one of those you don't conversate. It applies to everybody.
it doesn't
You
matter what.
get a degree. That's the thing. It doesn't matter. What he was strict with me and my brother, right? But my Gen Z sisters, he's very lax with it. But the rest of what we were required to have a degree. It was a requirement. It was not. We're not conversating.
I think generally parents are stricter with like goals and objectives when it comes to the girls than they are with the boys, right? Because I think subconsciously they try to prepare us to be chosen. And so they want to put you in that place where you have everything in your arsenal to be chosen as a wife. Sometimes like, okay, she's a good girl, we raised her right, she went to school, she has a degree, then you're more appealing to be chosen. Whereas for the guys,
Cannot be
usually,
too successful though,
yes, you
because
cannot be, but then with the guys it's usually, oh, boys will be boys. After all, they're the ones doing the picking, right? If at the end of the day, you're ultimately responsible for taking care of your family. However you want to do it, that's on you. So they're not, for the most part, generally, parents don't put a whole lot of those family pressures on the guy. The main thing they'll pressure a guy sometimes, mostly, is, oh, when are you getting married? You're looking at him like, this dude doesn't work. He makes half of what his sister makes, but you're like, go get a wife. Whose daughter are you trying to put in that situation?
You
You
know,
know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like they would not, like, you can't tell them nothing about that boy child, but you have a daughter out there who's very successful, and you're like, oh, you're doing all that. No man's gonna want to come and marry you unless you do this. And
oh
you're
Lord
like,
Jesus,
Yeah.
you can't win.
I'm more successful than your so-called precious son, but you're
Mhm.
hoping to pick the creme de la creme of the women out there
This
to marry him. And so
believe me,
sometimes those pressures are more on the girl child than they are on the guys. They really don't. You
yeah.
can do whatever
I
you
think
want.
I think that in some instances, another reason why the pressure is more on the girl child, like in my case, the pressure is on us, the females, for my dad, because in his mind, he's preparing you for just in case somebody's son decides to mess you up. You've gotten the education, you can get a job, you can take care of yourself and your family if it doesn't work out. So I think that his own point of view is more of worst case scenario. At least let me get my daughter to where she's self-sufficient and does not have to rely on someone's son to come mess it all up,
No,
So
Nelly, that was my mom. That was always her rule. It's just like in how back home what you do in high school determines the rest of your
Your
trajectory
life.
in college. Alive. That's why she took me out. Like I went and did it because in her head she's like, "What are you going to do? Biology and chemistry? Go and be." It's like she did not even want me to do law because in her head lawyers suffer too much. Accounting was where she was getting, and she was bent. And she always says she does not care. You only get married after you have a degree, have a job. You have it, and that's exactly what you said. What your parents, your dad was preparing you guys. That was her goal. I need you to be self-sufficient just in case you meet somebody else, you guys get married and decide that yeah, useless and they want to useless you. So if they get to that point,
Yeah.
I should be messy. There's no problem. They can bring you back to my house, but you'll be able to stand on
I,
yourself and your
I
family then.
So
So
let me fix my mouth and ask you guys this. Now that we have established the issue of, mothers overprotecting their boy children. Now, you upcoming mothers, what is it that you will do different in this scenario, in this case? Or what proposals you guys have? Because I'd love to hear this.
Nelly should take this one.
I tell
okay.
you,
In the scenario of Vince, in which scenario?
In the scenario of just in general, right? Like, okay,
Of
let's
raising
say,
our
for example,
boys?
now you have two boys, two girls, right? how would you address the issue of not overtasking your girls, but make it equal? The dynamic should be equal in the house, like the same that you ask of the women, you ask of the men. How would you propose, or how would you, right, go about establishing this difference in your house, in your home, or in your environment?
Well, as having my two boys and my girl, it's definitely an equal opportunity household. Yeah. Whatever the girl can do, the boy can do as well. The only pressure that I put, or the only way I parent my boys a little bit differently, is that I want to raise them in a way that they value women, be it in how they treat their sister, how they treat their aunties, or all the women in their life generally. I want them to grow up knowing that it is their responsibility to take care, of the females in their life. At the same time, I also want my daughter to know that she can be self-sufficient, like she can do things without necessarily having to rely on her brothers to do it for her. You know what I mean? There's no, it's boys who do this, it's girls who do this. Everybody does it equally. But I'm definitely putting the pressure on the boys to take care of the women in their life. Now, I did not grow up, I did not have younger brothers to see how my parents raised them differently. The only experience that I have with men were the men, that I was in relationships with, and then my boy children. But I would say, yeah, raising those boys, the goal is to make them well-rounded, but value women for sure. Yeah, a woman is not, be it in like the way they talk to each other. Now they're still young. I let them know you cannot raise your voice at a woman. You can't raise your voice at your sister. Her opinion has to be heard. I want that ingrained in them, to know that a woman's voice is important.
I saw this research where I think it's what is our generation? Gen X?
Millennials.
I think
Yeah,
we're
millennials,
millennials.
I think, yeah.
Millennials.
Yeah, our generation is more into encouraging their boy children to be familiar with the kitchen, because our generation and the ones backwards see women as, cook for me, as, your place is in the kitchen and all of that. And one of the main criteria that men used to look for in women is, can they cook? And then it turns out that cooking is not a female or woman thing. It's a life skill. So yeah, I don't know if it was a research article or was just, an opinion article, but yeah, our generation, it was a poll, I think a poll, of people were, how they're raising their sons together and differently and all of that. And I think that's a good thing, because, there's stories of men hanging out with women just because they can cook something for them. Meanwhile, you can look up a YouTube video of me. Like my younger brother, he could not boil water to save his life. But with this whole IT thing and job in different state, he found himself in Colorado. Now he's over there cooking eggplant. I do not know the last time I cooked eggplant. Like the thought of having to grate the cocoa and wrap it, and no, he would just wake up one day and he would cook eggplant and post it. I'm like, well, good for you. Back in the day, I'll tell you to boil rice and you look at me like, yeah. So it would be good that boys are raised to be able to sustain themselves, especially in the aspect of you do your own laundry, put your clothes in the hamper, not on the floor by the hamper,
right?
Which is something that I instilled in my younger cousin, because I grew up with him. It's like, just because you're a boy doesn't mean you will take your clothes off at the door and just throw it like it's a basketball. You will make it in the hamper and that should be okay. No, it's not. Go pick it up, put it in the hamper. Basic life skills.
Okay. Let me bring all of the, let me drag you guys back a little bit. Most of these boys that we speak of are being raised by women, by mistake, right? So in the sense that, what does that say about the women who raised them? And the boys that to come to will be raised by women, and some men too. But at the same time, I feel like sometimes it's being overshadowed by the women, right? And what does that say to them too when they don't instill these things, but yet want them to magically know? I'll still stand by the fact that everybody got their role. If to say that a thief breaks in the house, I'm not gonna look at my sister like, yo, go be the first person to stand at the door. She's gonna run behind me. But in the sense that if we're speaking about this thing that we're speaking of, why can't she go be the first person to stand in front of the door? Why would she stand behind me? Now, to Mana's research, I feel as though it's two different places and two different times, right? The generation comes from a generation from Cameroon where women were more prone to be at home while men go work. The man brings it home, and if the woman is home, then what else is she doing if she cannot handle that? Or the people go out to the farms and different things like that, right? So in a sense, I can see why that would be so. But still, if I feel as though I'm not good at cooking and you are, and I'm good at something else that you're not, I don't see why it's not a fair trade. Now tell me that, I could learn just in case you're sick, there's somebody to, carry on that, that task. That's a different conversation. But in a sense, hey, if you're good at it, why not? Why not do it? Because you do it faster, you do it better. You know what I mean? And I guess we could save some lives because I could damn near poison some people if I go touch that pot, you know? So why don't we see it like that? Why must it be that always it's X, Y, and Z? And, when it comes to breastfeeding, you're not going to look at me and say, no, you must breastfeed too because you have nipple.
He said because you have nipple. This guy.
You
I mean,
were.
life skill is a life skill. That's different from the word just kept my mind. But
With the
I mean,
nails that
cooking.
these
Gender.
women put these days, if I tell a woman to pick up an axe to split wood, will she?
I mean, some women cook, but I would not.
I mean, I don't know if it's like an equality thing. It's more of like when people make it a requirement for a life partner, like, oh, you have to know how to cook, as one of their
That's a life
requirements.
skill. That's a life skill. You know what I'm saying? Like some women would say that.
I mean, but if you're single, bro, how do you eat? Do you order food every day?
If the money is there, why not?
I mean, if you can, good for you.
Like, that's why I'm saying that food doesn't.
In Cameroon, I used to break firewood. I don't know if you're saying. Please, I was trained to break firewood.
I mean, I used to, but I won't do it now. I won't.
I was like, what is that? To break firewood. You see, even chicken that people are killing, that they say it's for men. In my house, where I grew up,
Yeah.
I kill them. So,
I mean, while we're trying to answer this disparity in gender roles, right? Can we tie that to the two husbands and the two wives? Like Jende and Clark in their roles as husbands, and then Cindy and Nenny with their roles as wife. Just you don't have to do both. Just pick one and speak on it.
So I just want to piggyback off what AK just brought a perfect conversation when he was speaking on earlier. He said the women are the ones bringing up the men, and why can't they just instill these things in them, right? In the case as Cindy, as a mother, you can tell that as a parent, right? She I think her relationship with Clark is your role. I'm here and you're here. You're supposed to do this. That's in Clark's head from the way I understood the book. That was his rationale by how he responded to the issues that Cindy will bring up to him according to the issues. Like if there's something with the family. In that case, you could clearly tell that Cindy was struggling, right? We know our roles, but we're parents, we're married, we're partners. Cindy was struggling with the family life in the sense that I think she was trying to get, she believes that her son was going astray, was not doing the things that he was supposed to do because his father was absent and he had valid reasons to be. And she came to her husband and said, hey, yes, I know that's what I'm supposed to do, but this is what's happening. Can you help me? But he said no. He's a man. Not that he said no. I'm not saying he didn't say no, but he really didn't approach it or he didn't do anything about it because he kept asking, what is it that you want me to do? It's like it was a blaming game for both of them. There was like a lack of communication because she's saying, yeah, she was blaming him technically, which she shouldn't have. She was, but rather than him listening, it became like a fuss. And so, in that sense, in terms of family, compared to Jende and Nenny, which I mean I can touch about. But compared to that, I was like, were they really a unit in that sense? Because it's like I think there was so much involved in their role as husband and wife, provider versus homemaker or home builder, that they forgot the dynamics of family per se. Like we're a unit. Yes, I know what I'm supposed to do and I know what you're supposed to do. But at the end of the day, we are a pair, we're a unit, there's something wrong and I need to fix it. And if you want to look into in depth into situations, there's a couple of things you can say Clark as a husband should have noticed, but he just did not notice it. It literally just went past him. That if you're reading the book on an outsider, you ask, which I think Neni and Jende, everybody kept asking, how the hell? It's like, how the hell is Clark does not know this his wife drinks? How does he not notice these things? How does he not know that? How is it possible? Because there are certain things that you're thinking in your head that he should. Yes, she's an alcoholic. I walk in. They have perfect ways of hiding it. But there are certain things, there's just something in their relationship that was missing. That I think if we want to look at it, is because they were so involved in their roles and they forgot the simplest things of what family and marriage and having a partner is.
There was something that, you know, he had mentioned when Jende had asked, oh no, he mentioned that he writes short poems or something like that. And, you know, and then when he said, why don't you write one for your wife? And he said, oh, I wrote one and I read it to her and she just didn't pay no mind to it. You know what I mean? That's a epic moment, right? That for me as a man, I'm like, I mean, for everybody in general, right? Like the littlest things count, right? If a little thing like that, you pay less attention to, not that it's a tit for tat, but why do you think that your own thing is something that somebody else should pay attention to? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like what you want that will give you pleasure or give you that high in life. What do you think that the other person too also got their own thing that will give them that high in life too as well, right? And then also take it back to Neni and, you know, and her husband. You know what I mean? They have that, yeah, they got that love for each other. But when it came down to decision making, you know, and just finding middle ground, it was like, you know, they kept bumping heads and one person was just overshadowing the other.
Yeah,
I think they all wish that, you know, they all had each other's lives at some point, you know, like the roles reversed. So yeah, it's just sitting there saying, oh, my own life sucks. I wish I had other person's own life, but why don't you just play the hands that you are dealt?
Yeah, I think that with Nani and Jende, I really admired speaking of like their role and the different dynamics, when Nani was pregnant with her second pregnancy and Jende kind of stepped in, making sure that he was like cooking, he was cleaning, he was making sure that she didn't work. And she talked about how she would be the envy of any woman out there. Like this is what they would have wanted, because the whole time she was still wanting to be able to provide for her family. So when it came for time to work, to provide for the family as a unit, they were both committed to that. But when one person physically wasn't able to do that, the other person was able to step in and cover, just like a unit should function. So I think that that's something that was very different from the Clarks, the Edwards family. They didn't have the ability to cover for each other or to step into each other's roles when needed.
Yeah, I think initially, Neni had a hard time accepting the whole, you know, you don't have to work. I think she came to accept it after she spoke to her friend. I think Fatu said, oh no, Betty, who said, if you don't like it, then we can switch roles. You can take my life and I'll take your life. So that's when she became more, what's the word, appreciative of the fact that, you know, she could relax and just go through the pregnancy while Jende stepped in.
I find it funny sometimes, you know, when some women ask for something and is given and they still bitch about it. In my mind, I'm like, what do you want? Like, what really do you want? You know what I mean? Because
specific example would be helpful.
That would be nice.
I mean, it's like some people want to sit right and relax while the men go work and clean and do all these different things. It's given to you. You are fighting it. Why?
That's some people, though.
Yeah,
what about
right?
So, you can't be giving something to someone that's not what she's asking for.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? Mm-hmm. If I don't want to sit and relax, but you're giving me the opportunity to sit and relax, that's not what I want. You know, I shouldn't be grateful for it just because that's what 90% of the population wants, you know? So if that's what you're asking, you know, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah,
that's
it does. It does.
You know, sometimes it sounds like they're complaining about something. If they're complaining, it's because they're not getting what they're asking for. And it's either that you're not, whoever is giving is not listening to really what their partner is asking for, or they're just assuming that this is what she deserves, so this is what she needs.
So how did you find that moment in the book, right? That banter between them of, no, I want this, but he's saying this and that. How did you find that moment?
I think that she kind of was pressured into accepting it from her friends, the conversations with her friends, and actually like getting comfortable with it. And that made me think about, well, if this were in Cameroon, she obviously will not be working, being pregnant. So I didn't know if she herself was going through kind of an internal struggle with assimilating to the American culture. Because in America, you're going to be working up until your maternity leave or whatever. So I don't know if it's because she had assimilated to the culture and she just assumed that she needs to work to continue to provide for her family, or if she just truly wanted to work because she enjoyed working.
Nelly, to piggyback off of you, I thought in that particular scenario with that her being pregnant and Jende telling her not to work, I think it's more she looked at the situation because where they were, remember they were already struggling financially. They had yes, they were struggling a lot and there was a lot of money issues. And so she did not understand how she could get up the workforce and just have Jende work alone and how they could survive on one income. Was he making more than what they were before? Yes, he was. But I think she just had that in the back of her mind. And so it was hard for her to detach from that mindset. Yes, in Cameroon, she probably would have been home and not work, and her husband will go home, go out and make the money and come back. But she's in America, things are different. She doesn't have the resources and everything else that maybe she'll pretty much be like family resources, like, oh, auntie can help, this person can help, those Leo me, this. She didn't have that thing with her. And so in America, in her head, you had to work for us to get to this point. And so it was more, I think, a responsibility. And as a wife, to me, honestly, it's more her wanting to help her husband because that's where she was coming from. That's how I saw it. Like she wanted to help her husband because she could tell he was going to struggle. And so she's like, you know what? Let me do this until we get to this point. I cannot do it, and then we'll go from there. But again, you said something very important that in a relationship, it's actually something I read recently that it said if you can figure out what you're in a relationship, if you can figure out what your it's not a love language. They said, but if you can figure out what your partner's wants is in a relationship, what your partner's wants is, you can figure out what that need is. You have control over that relationship. So as if you can, if like she said that she doesn't want to work. She had her reasons, but Jende wasn't listening to it. But also, she wasn't figuring out what Jende wants. Jende's want was that he wanted to be the man of the house. He wanted to be responsible. He said he wanted to be able to take care of his family. And to him, I read it as to him, her working, doing when she's pregnant, came off as if he was not, I guess, mad enough to do what he was supposed to do. Yeah. So that's how I read it. So both of them actually in that case did not listen to each other's wants. They didn't know what each other wanted. They were not listening to each other at all. I mean, the only reason I think Nani finally gave in was because her friends was like, "Are you mad? Every woman in America wants to be right now. Are you sitting here and complaining? My friend Pastor guy sitting in your house." Then it dawned on her like, "Oh, this is a privilege I have, and I actually should enjoy and I should appreciate it," because she had gotten her out of her head. Like, I want to help my husband. I want to do something, but that was not what he wanted. He's telling me that let me be a man, let me do it, but she didn't listen. So both of them were not listening to each other's wants. They were doing whatever they wanted.
I mean, speaking of Jende doing what he wants, right? Let's touch a little bit. I think I'll probably just fast forward in the book, right? Where Jende made the ultimate decision for him and his whole family to go back home. Without asking Nanny's opinion, without seeking. How did that make y'all feel?
Let us drink to this.
How did that make y'all feel? Drink.
That was
We'll be here.
The theme, I think the theme of the book, one of the themes of the book was people were not speaking up.
Nope.
Like no one was willing to speak up. Jende did not speak up with his boss to ask for immigration help. That would have probably solved a lot of their problems. Nani did not speak up to her husband because I think that was a decision that literally changed the trajectory of all of their lives, including the kids. You know, she did not speak. I really thought that she was going to I thought she was going to develop some kind of courage after consulting with the pastor and going, to great lengths with that, even though her husband did not want her to. So I kind of felt proud of her that she insisted on seeking counsel from someone else, but she did nothing with it. She did not speak up. So that really upset me.
Okay, those who were drinking.
Oh Lord.
Drink to calm my vital signs,
If
please.
Jende really felt like, he was working for his family, he could have set his pride aside and asked for help. Because at the end of the day, what did he stand to lose if he had asked his boss? He was still returning back anyways.
Right.
You know what I mean? So at some point, I felt as though there's this blind allegiance to unknown factors, right? That most of us go day to day with, but yet wonder why some things happen the way they do. And not realize just this blind allegiance that we have to certain things that don't work or work in a bizarre way for us. So it was just bizarre that, somebody said, oh, I'm doing this for my family, but then what it really takes for you to do, you're not doing. You are debating over the unnecessaries and what's really necessary right in front of you. You cannot let your ego oversee that. So it was kind of bizarre to me.
I think that looking back to culture, right? The man makes the decision. I mean, that's what I told myself to not jump out of the book. Like, okay, fine. He's making decisions as a man, I guess, makes him feel like a man. Oof. And, going back off of AK's point, I'm not asking for help. I mean, I feel like our generation has learned to ask for help. Back then, it's like you either figure it out on your own or talk to the person you've been referred to because there's man no man. So yeah, to a certain extent, maybe he didn't ask for help because maybe he thought that because his work permit was expiring or had expired, it may have made things worse. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns there, but yeah, I think a lot of how he went about certain things can be tied to culture, upbringing, or just how we grow up. Back then you don't ask questions, you just do what you're told.
I don't know. It felt like a man that was defeated.
He was.
Like he was defeated, and because of, again, I say his pride. I mean, he just couldn't oversee the fact that, yo, you know what? Damn, I'm about to own up to my shit. Now, I'd rather we go back home than me standing here owning up to my shit. You know what I mean? So that was kind of bizarre to me because I'm like, dang.
But AKC, you have to understand that Jende Jonga is a Bakari man.
Yup.
And there's one thing about Bakari men is he would die before he takes his pride out the way. And this is clearly exhibited here, right? His pride took the best of him.
Are most Bakri men short?
No.
They're really tall. They're really tall men.
Shots fired.
I mean, he had to ask, but no, Bakri people are not that. The majority of them are tall. They're really tall.
Speaking of his pride, I kind of question that a little bit because as a man and thinking about how he got to be with Nani and thinking about her dad and the position that he was in, and how he felt about their relationship. I don't know if to me, my ultimate no, or my breaking point would have been the idea that I have to bring back this woman back home, the field life. I thought that would trump immigration trying to kick me out, and I don't know if that had occurred to him. I just don't think that he fought. He did not fight enough. And it's hard for me to assume that it was because of pride. Because if he was truly prideful, returning home,
it's kind of big hit on his pride.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, he had a landing spot though with that one because he went home with 15 million. So on that front, he had a landing spot for his pride. Because if he was going empty-handed now, that would have been another story. But he's going back super rich with 15 million. He already had a plan to open his business. So that part was taken care of. So he wasn't worried about that.
Well, then that makes me wonder, if Nani had not gotten that blackmail money, would he have decided to go?
Probably not.
That is a
Maybe
that
the
is a
story would
good
have been
question.
That's
That
what I'm
is a
saying.
good
Foolish
question.
pride.
different.
Foolish pride.
Yes, he was okay. I think just the whole thing is if she gets the money, you yell at her. Then you make decisions about the money. I'm like, if we're going back to the fundamentals of you guys being a couple, why was it so hard for you just to have a conversation with your wife and actually listen to her when she talks? Like he did not, he sat down and he made a decision and he stuck with it. He did that throughout the book. Like he would just say, we have to do this, that's it. It doesn't matter if she can go left, up and down, left, right. It doesn't matter. That's the decision. Which, okay, as a man, I can understand that. But I just personally, I'm very heavy on conversations. Let's talk. Like let's have a conversation and let's talk about this thing and reason each other. The man was, it drove me nuts. And if Nene was nice because I almost in my head I read the book. I had to go back. I was like, okay, let's take a step back. Or write a book. It's not real. It's a fictional story. Because I'm like, why could this man not just have a conversation with his wife? Why would he make a decision and think because whatever decision he makes works for me? It's just the thing that you could clearly see. She didn't want to leave her friends. She didn't want to live her life. She clearly said, going back to her, like, I think it was Nelly that mentioning that taking your wife back home, that pride, that shame that comes with it. She felt it. He didn't. In his head, he was going back a millionaire. That's you, sir. What about me? I ain't got shit. You understand? I ain't got nothing.
I brought you here, so taking you back should not be.
I mean, in your opinion, right? In everyone's opinion, who do you think make the ultimate sacrifice for their families and for all the characters, whether it's Clark, Vince, Mighty, whoever? Who do you think made the ultimate sacrifice for family?
Nani?
I think Clark.
Why you think Clark? And then Nelly, you can tell us why, Nini.
I'm curious.
Because I feel like he lost everything in the end. So he sacrificed everything in the end.
Mm-hmm.
His wife, his family, his job, whoever he was hanging out with, everybody gone. Job. Well, I guess sacrifice can be looked in, the outcome, because he ended up losing everything, and because Nene still had something to hold on to. I mean, even though she was going back home, she was going back with a lot of things to probably figure out the life ahead.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. And I think to speak on your point for a little bit, I think Clark, when his company filed bankruptcy, is that what happened? When the company filed for bankruptcy, I thought that would have been kind of like an opportunity for him to reset.
I thought so too.
But he didn't grab at it, But for the reason why I think that Nani made the most sacrifice, she sacrificed a career that she potentially would have had, something that she was actually passionate about. Her child's life, Leomi and Timba, and the futures, the opportunities that America would have provided. There's no way that Cameroon would have provided those same opportunities. And just herself, she literally did not have a voice. I wondered what would have happened if she insisted on staying and marrying her friend's cousin, so she could get her papers and she could have let him go,
Yeah.
For a lot of it, I was like, just let him go. If he wants to go, let him go. She has the legal path to stay in this country and she can figure her way out. Then let him go. I don't know how she agreed to jump on the bandwagon with him, because I don't know. Love would not have been enough for me to make that decision.
They say love is not enough.
No, love would not have been enough for me.
I don't know. Why do I think I think all those three characters, well, specifically not Cindy, because Cindy, I don't know if she sacrificed much, but I think Clark, Nene, and Jende did have to give up a lot, because it was AK that mentioned this earlier, that I think Jende got to the point where here, because he was a defeated man, he got defeated. Because Jende had the American dream. He spoke about it throughout the entire book. He just, he had this plan for his family. He brought Nenny them here, the pride he had bringing his wife over here with his child, going through all of that, working the amount of jobs that he did. And he, at the end, just giving up all of that. Like this little, I always say, castle that he had built in his head that was going to happen. I think he did lose a lot. He just, the book said he did not show it, but they can think that he was feeling bad. I think he felt it. I've just said, I think he probably, like, it touched him. Because he had, it's like, I think in my head, the way I was reading it, right, I'm like, man, this man is a dude, right? He's a guy, because even I, as a female, she gave a lot, because Nenny gave up a lot, because especially with the immigration part, when they say she could marry somebody else, she was not asking to leave her husband. She was saying that I'm still going to be married to you, but I just need to take a break, get somebody and get papers and come back. That takes a lot for somebody to do. That's a lot for her to do it. Just how much she had to give, and then him sitting and asking himself, like, his own goal is like, why would I have to sit in this country and spend this amount of money? My child is gonna be an illegal immigrant. I even forgot the fact that Nenny was willing to give Leomi up for adoption just so he could.
Yeah. Talk about sacrifice.
Like, I take that back. Nenny did sacrifice a lot. Never mind. Sorry. I
Because
respect
I
that part.
couldn't see what Jende sacrificed.
Yes,
If he sacrificed his wife, hell.
I think it's just because he had this idea of the perfect family, the American dream. He spoke about it, having opportunities, and he was nothing. He was a something pusher. I don't remember what he did in Cameroon. I'm coming to this country. Like, he was going to be amazing. He was going to be the pillar of everything. And I'm sad at the end he gave up, because I feel like he gave up, and it pisses me off that he did give up on everything. But now I'm thinking and listening to you guys talk, and a lot of scenarios are popping in my head, and I need to give up a lot.
I was going to ask you, giving up is not the same as a sacrifice.
No, Nenny sacrificed a lot.
I mean, I'm thinking about the difference between sacrifice and blind following, or just following because you don't want to use your voice,
So are you saying Nenny was blind following?
I mean, I want to say that she did not put her foot down, because I want to imagine what if she actually put her foot down and decided to do what she wanted to do, regardless of, the outcome, or actually debated a little bit more, or argued, her stance a little bit more. You know what I mean? So I don't want to just say that sacrifice, but I guess I would say Clark, because it's like the man was just confused all around. You know what I mean? He was trying to please every single situation, and at some point just lost it. Just totally lost it and dropped the ball. And yeah. So I'll say Clark. For some reason, I don't know. I just felt like he dropped it big time.
Yeah, no, I was trying to rationale, like, how was she blind following? I was like, it's a married couple, and the book is centered around an African family and how the dynamics of being in an African marriage. As we clearly say in the house, at the beginning of the episode, okay, you mentioned that one thing you enjoyed about it, you thought it was, I don't know if you say it was cool, you enjoyed it, was the patriarchal way that he ran his household. And then I'm like, if you run a household that way, how did you expect her to put her foot down and say, no, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do XYZ? You understand? So it's just,
when push comes to shove, like different, what's that thing, how they say it? Desperate time calls for desperate measures. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be able to recognize a certain moment and say, you know what? I came from the dump and I don't want to go back there. Regardless of how you want to see it, I am not going back there. Now, this is the thing, right? I don't understand why this Winston, that lawyer guy's name was Winston, right? No, sorry.
Abubakar.
I don't understand why she couldn't just chill, wait when the husband is at work, and then go and have a conversation with the Abubakar guy and say, hey, here's what I'm thinking. what do you think? You know what I mean? I understand the respect, but again, desperate time calls for desperate measures. Sometimes if you really feel convicted in your heart that, you know what, this person is not hearing and you have a solution, you just have to take action. The repercussions will come later and you can deal with that. Now I'm going back to Cameroon because of somebody else's foolishness. Man, I don't know, man. I would have gone and
Now,
married, even if I marry, whomever, that's what I would do to stay. Because again, the idea was to give our kids a better future and ourselves. So, nothing was gonna trump that, in my opinion.
I mean, looking at the book in its entirety, right? Did you think that the Jongas family did have their American dream after all?
Did have their what?
American dream. And to you, like in the book, what would you say, just from the book's perspective? Would you say that they had it? Why? Why not?
No, they didn't, man.
Did they?
No, they did not. They did not. They did not.
Yeah, I don't think they did.
No, they did not.
They didn't have the opportunity to. They were 10% there. They didn't have the opportunity to really experience it, the way they wanted to. Because part of it was giving their kids that, that freedom to go to school, become something for themselves. So why did themselves also become something to, make money to go back to and, build on all this stuff. So they did not really.
See, I would say I disagree. I think Jende did. At least he had some kind of version of it, right? Because he ended up going back. Now, nobody back home knows the kind of sufferings that he went through and the roller coaster of emotions, right? But here's a man coming back into Limbe Town, a millionaire. All they see is he went abroad, came back a millionaire. He's going to do big things, open a thing. So I think he got some kind of version of it. But I think Nanny did not. She absolutely did not. Because her dream, at the end of the day, as much as they wanted to give their kids a better life and all that, they can still do that. Timba is a citizen. She can always go back, right? Leomi can always go older and the sister files for him, or he can still go back, right? He's still a child. But I think Neni was the one who didn't get it because her dream was contingent upon her geographical location. There's no way she's being a pharmacist in Cameroon.
Yeah.
So she didn't even have, not even a version of that American dream. But everything she did helped Jende get his American dream. His main thing was to have money and this. To be honest, I don't think it really mattered to Jende where he had money. All he wanted was to have money and not be looked upon as that guy who went to jail because he was too poor and impregnated a rich man's child. That's all he needed. Whether it was in America or Cameroon, he did not care. And I think that's why it was so easy for him to be like, well, I mean, after all, I got all this money. We'll go back to Limbe. I can do this. I can open a construction company. I can make this. I can. So to me, that's how I feel.
I'll disagree with you because his American dream did not have anything to do with that money till the end when he was defeated and he was like, yo, you know what? Fuck it. We're just gonna go home. You know what I mean? Correct me if I'm wrong. American dream is being an American and doing these necessary things that you need to do for yourself in America. Now, part of it is saying that you want the liberty to be able to travel and go different places, sure. But while you're in America, you want to live this lavish lifestyle of you're working, you're living in a good home, your kids are going to school and all that stuff. That's my understanding of what an American dream is. Now, if you bail and go someplace else and you're living there and doing that, how is that American dream for you?
That's why I said he got some kind of version of it.
Yeah.
Right? He took a piece of that life with him. It wasn't what he set out to have to begin with, but I think he got a sweeter deal than any did.
Oh, he definitely got a sweeter deal than anybody, than his entire family. But who I think did the most disservice to them was Winston. And I think that that's a common theme with those of us in the diaspora. He did not adequately prepare them for what it takes to achieve that American dream. A lot of it was perseverance. I don't think that he had prepared them. And I also don't think that there's anything that Winston could have said to Jende that would have made him be like, this may not be easy, but you can do it. There's nothing that Winston would have said to like change his mind or his perception of what America will be like. But I definitely think that Winston could have prepared them, because if you're coming in knowing that there will be struggle, your mindset is already tailored to, okay, I'm going to persevere. They said there will be trouble. They said it's not going to be easy. So this is just part of the course, So I'm just going to have to persevere and wait. I also think that fear was another thing that really prevented them, because if he had stayed, if he had ended up filing all those multiple appeals, that would have bought him several years, So at least give Nani the chance to attain some level of the dream, instead of just finally giving up. But yeah, he definitely got some version of his American dream, and he's the only one who got that. Yeah.
When Clark offered to call his guy at USCIS and Jende denied, I almost threw my tablet across the room. And he was like, "Oh, don't worry, it's already decided." I was like,
I already bought my ticket.
This man doesn't even want to fight.
Yeah.
Nope.
He gave up.
And because of that, I don't see how that was an American dream for him. I mean,
I think that he did not want to fight because it felt like he got something. I mean, it may not have been the entire American dream, but I feel like if he didn't have all the money that he had, would he have fought more? Would he have let Clark call his? Because then he was willing to do something about it, but he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she was willing to do something because
look at Gano, for example. Why is he not in America, living in Los Angeles or somewhere in the UK, living in London? He decided to go and be living in Pay. Why? The man has converted the money to Cameroon money and seen that it's much plenty to go live in Cameroon. Guy did his math. You know what? If I go back to Cameroon, I'm a millionaire instead of 1,000 in America. So right now, in this given moment, this lawyer is saying this. If we take this money and give to the lawyer, it could burn. But if I go back here, I could make a business. But then again, who is to say that thing will even survive? You know what I mean? So I still feel as though man's quit the American dream.
Yep. And to think about what Nelly said about Winston not preparing them, I don't know that he could have prepared them enough, because I remember I just came to the US and then I started working, and then I was going to school. I had my friends complaining, "Oh, I'm not sending money. I'm not calling enough." They say that America has, I mean, I didn't say this like this, but it felt like this notion that money is, flying off trees, And I try to explain to them that it's not what you see in the media, and they still didn't get it until they got here. And some of them called me back and they were like, "Oh, now I get it." Sometimes you would have to walk in those shoes in order to understand the struggle, because telling people back home that, you work 2 jobs and you have a big house, you barely sleep in, and you have a car note that you pretty much live in your car, but they won't get it until they get here. So I don't know how much Winston could have prepared them, but maybe just telling them that it's hard out here in the streets.
Yep.
Man didn't want to do his research, so he cannot blame nobody but himself. You know what I mean? They cannot give you a bed. I give you, anyways. You know where that goes. So, in conclusion, you know what I mean? Let's give our conclusions to this book. You know what I mean? I should give our conclusions. Please rate the book, from 1 to 10. And would you recommend this book to anybody? So let's go.
I love that the book kept me engaged. Like I said, it's the second time I'm reading it, and some parts still have me like flipping pages ahead. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going to happen? So I like the part that, it kept me active. It's not one of those books that you're like, oh, it's a slow start and it's a slow again. Yeah, with reading it, I don't know if I'm going to say 10 because it's a Cameroonian. But I loved it. I loved it. So I'll give it like about a 9.98. Yeah, and it's a book that I will read again, if the opportunity presents itself, like I said, the second time I'm reading it, so it's a good tie or it's good connection to back home. So it felt like I was traveling back in time, should I say?
Nice. Nelly.
Well, I would definitely give it maybe an 8. I felt like it was very relatable. It had a lot of themes that, like you could see yourself, you could immerse yourself into the scenes. It was also thought provoking. I don't like that we had to do a lot of assuming, especially with the characters, Clark and his wife, and what the dynamic was between the two of them. There was a little bit more that could be said to that relationship. I like the themes I like the Cameroonian culture, African culture versus American culture. I like that we're able to compare, or as a reader, you're able to draw differences between marriage in an African culture versus an American culture, and things like that. Will I refer to someone? Definitely. Anyone who is newly migrated, anyone who's planning to, anyone who has been here and is already struggling. It was nice to read about things that we all have experienced, one way or the other. So, yeah, it's a good book.
I would definitely recommend this book. Like Nelly said, that's something I didn't think about, but anyone who's planning to migrate, just give them that and be like, this could potentially be your life. So prepare yourself, but probably do what Winston failed to do. Like, read this, and these are possibilities when you come over here, right? I would definitely recommend to print. I think everybody should get a copy, right? Even you're not an immigrant, it kind of gives you an insight into someone else's life on their journey to attaining the American dream. So I think it's something that everyone else should read. I think I would give the book a 9, because it was filled with a lot of nostalgia from back home. I liked how it represented a lot of the Cameroonian culture in it. It preserved it even while they were in the U.S. Through the Jonga family. I think the one thing that it was missing is something. There was a lot of us. There was. It's hard to judge, like Nelly just mentioned. It's hard to judge the Clark's family because there was a lot missing. There's not a lot of background story there, so there was a lot of assumptions. But I think it was also very stereotypical, right, of the African home and the American home. But it was for good reason, right? For context in the book. But overall, it is a good book.
Yes. Overall, I enjoyed reading the book. I think I've probably read it so fast. I need to go back and reread it just so I can enjoy more of some of the scenarios in there. I listened to the audiobook, and it was always so funny for me when I heard the people reading in pidgin. It was like hilarious. It was just like, okay, this sounds so weird, so bizarre, but I enjoyed it. I think both families, the book, it gave I would say, maybe a good exaggerated depiction of the African household, Cameroonian to be more specific, but African in general, and the American scenario of things. But we need to understand that in the book, right? We keep forgetting that these people came from two different classes, though. That the Edwards were like a high end. They were supposed to be the wealthy New Yorkers. They were in the high end, rich folks, and the Wall Street people that they had money. And then the Jongas back home, one of them came from money, but then they are poor, and so they came from two separate backgrounds. So it was kind of very interesting to see the family dynamic between both of them. One thing I enjoyed about the book is, as dramatic as it had it was versatile in terms of the different topics it addressed. Immigration, I think the immigration part of it applies to every immigrant, African, Asian, whoever. Everybody has gone through that similar story. It's just the struggles that come with it. Family, there's the family dynamics of both cases and how different that worlds were. And I think marriage and relationship, I liked how it kind of gave us like an insight, but like a different perspective of two different cultures, two different couples from two different cultures and two different backgrounds, how they handle things and the similarities people talk about it and the differences between both of them. What an African would do, it did keep me very engaged, and I liked it because, like, T said something very important, that it was very typical because I literally went and read the end of the book. I could like put two and two together to figure out what happened in the middle. I didn't like how reasonable it was at some point. Overall, will I recommend the book? Yes, I already did actually. I actually said to somebody that's a reader and told them that they should read it because I think it's a good read. Not even if you're not just an immigrant. I like the stories with both families because they're actually quite different but similar in a way. Rating, I think I'll give it a 9 because honestly, I did have to do a lot of assuming with, especially with the Clark. I wanted the writer to. I was very interested in Cindy and Clark's relationship, the dynamics, the drugs. There was a couple of things that I had more questions on that I would like her to expand on it. Or she can write a sequel just so I can see what happened. But I mean, Cindy died. Which we didn't talk about it. The drugs and the fact that she died from she ended up passing away and she OD'd and she died from choking on her own vomit, which is pretty sad. And they really didn't expand on what they did, summarize on what they did to Mighty and how they spoke about that. But I wish she had dived more into that whole aspect of things. So it's a good read overall. Actually is, whether you're immigrant or not, just and anybody that is a reader, it'll keep you interested, it keeps you engaged because you're curious as to what happens next.
Yeah, so me, I'll give it a 9/10 just because, I like to keep, one apart. But would I recommend it? Of course. I read it before. So reading it again now and then reading it in haste was a pain. So that's my own problem, you know what I mean? It's not, but that's just my own. So but it's a great book all in one. Definitely relatable for immigrants and non-immigrants, but most importantly is the family dynamics, right? It's like, it reminded me of this song by Niken, two way you like an 80 go, so one way writing 80 cancel, you write it. So it's just that difference in things. So very cool book. You guys could get it. But anyways, man, shout out to you guys, for reading, of course. And like always, bringing the questions and the commentaries and everything. I wish we had more time to, jump into other factors of the book, but hey, we're clocking 2 hours, so we gotta go. People got work tomorrow. Barbara is already tired, yawning and everything. So, you know what I'm saying? This is SITM Podcast, the book review, in collaboration with Palm Wine Central Podcast. I'm here with Mane, Nelly, Barbara, Therese, and I'm Uncle AK. You know what I mean? Our social medias will be somewhere in the show notes. Reach out to us, and if you want to have more conversations than this, I'm pretty sure that there's more in the tank. But anyways, man, like I said, social medias will be at the bottom. Reach out to every one of us if you want to keep the conversation going. And we out. Bye.